Think spending $90,000 on a new truck buys you peace of mind. These owners found out it buys you a second job, dealing with turbo failures, dead batteries, and cars that catch fire before the new car smell even fades.
I'd like to introduce one of the worst investments I ever made is a pilot truck, a full-time pilot truck. This is my 2024 GMC Sierra 3-liter Duramax diesel. This thing literally spends more time in the shop than it does on the road. First purchase was a 2023. It was white, 3-liter Duramax 1500 GMC, and it was literally the biggest piece of shit you could find on the highway. So we decided we must have had a dud. Let's just upgrade it to a 2024. We'll get out of that one into this one. And to be credible, this thing lasted to 70,000 kilometers before it blew the first turbo. It literally has 90-some thousand on it now, and it blows a turbo every 9,000 kilometers. Nobody can tell me why GM Canada has an issue with these trucks. And I'm putting this video out here out of pure frustration with this truck. I've bought brand new vehicles since 2004. I've never had or experienced this. We have diesel 3/4 ton and 1 ton trucks right now that run beautiful. Those things are the cat's meow. But GM has a problem with the 3 liters. Is anybody else having these problems? My dealership is an amazing dealership, but they're at a loss. GM Canada doesn't seem to have answers. If it's something we're doing wrong with this truck, please let us know if you'd like to rectify it. Right now, it sits at the dealership yet again. 9,000 kilometers on it since the last turbo went boom. Warranty's coming up. I'm left with a dud.
He didn't just get one lemon, he traded it in for a second lemon, and this new one is blowing turbos every 9,000 kilometers like it's on a scheduled maintenance plan for self-destruction. All right, listen to this next one, because apparently owning a brand new $93,000 truck now comes with a free side of trauma.
I don't like making videos like this, but here we are. GM is shutting down the Oshawa assembly line that makes the 1500 GM 1500 Silverado that they've been making for years. And you're probably wondering why. Well, because nobody can afford to buy them. They go from $55,000 all the way to $93,000. Now, this is a pickup truck, right? This isn't a race car. It's just a fucking truck. And that GM plant employs 2,200 people, which actually, in turn, if those 2,200 people go out without a job, that means that 22,000 people will be affected from the spin-off businesses that rely on that production line. But the kicker of this is that GM vehicle that you bought for $93,000, well, after 2 years, it's only worth $55,000. So GM is actually sucking all of your equity out of that car. Because who the fuck would buy a truck that you can't put a sheet of plywood in, you don't want to get scratched, you have to maintain with dealer software and dealer parts. You can't even fix it yourself. It doesn't even come with a fucking dipstick. You can't check your own oil. Fuck me. And at the end of it, depreciate $40,000 to $50,000 in 2 years. So
watch this next one, because we're moving from trucks losing their jobs to a Kia Telluride that's apparently trying to become a bonfire.
Well, I'm back in my Kia Telluride, my brand new 2-month-old Kia Telluride, where the door handle fell off. It got recalled, 4 seats catching on fire 5-6 times in the last 2 months. The entire car just kind of freaks out. Just last week, the car just stalled in the middle of the road. The gear was locked in place. I had brought it in and they couldn't find the problem. They plugged it into the computer. They couldn't find it. So their only solution was somebody from the service department was going to take it home and just drive it until the problem presented itself. They called me yesterday saying they found the problem. He drove it quite a bit. There's 150 kilometers put on it since I dropped it off. He told me he had his kids in here, which I guess, like, if he has to drive it constantly, it has to become his primary car. And the way he found the problem is he went over a speed bump or a pothole or something, and whatever was loose popped out and the whole car froze up again. Should I not be compensated for the fact that this is a 2-month-old car? I've been paying for it for the past week and a half that I have not had it. And not only have I been paying for it, but somebody else put 150 kilometers on it. And I get that that was the only way to find the problem, but like that shouldn't be my problem. I'm talking to the service guy, I'm like, just level with me here. 2-month-old car, it's kind of messed up that all of these things are happening, right? Appreciated his honesty. He said there was just a manque d'attention, like someone wasn't paying attention when they were putting mine together. Anyway, if something else goes wrong with it, I will be looking into a legal option. But as of right now, I'm stuck with this car. For those of you saying, sell it, get something else, I can't sell it. This is a lease. This is not my car. Oh, and they gave it to me with a little less gas than I brought it in with, which in my opinion, if you're gonna have me go through all of this inconvenience, fill up my tank at least to halfway. There was like a tiny little, I just had to go get gas. Oh boy.
A 2-month-old car that's caught fire multiple times, gotten recalled, and had a mechanic literally move in with it like it's a foster child, and somehow the biggest scandal in this story is that they gave it back with less gas in the tank. That's not a repair update, that's a hostage negotiation. But if you thought a stalling, self-igniting SUV was rough, wait till you hear about the Telluride that decided to go straight to engine roulette.
Just imagine buying a new 2020 for Kia Telluride with 0 miles and the engine blows up at 6,000 miles. Dealership put a new engine in, now the new engine won't stop overheating and it sounds like an old VU.
So today I woke up and I took my kids to school, okay? Then I got my stuff together and then I drove to my friend's house in Woodland Hills so I can do her lashes. I did her lashes. Now on my way back home, my car decides to overheat. My engine started overheating. Okay, but to me it's like, it doesn't make sense because I just got a new engine in my car because Kia's a piece of shit. And they said to put a new engine, but now it's overheating. Is that normal? I don't know if that's normal. So now I have to wait 75 minutes for a Kia tow truck to come get me and ship me out to the Kia dealership.
All right, watch this next one because apparently Jeep Wagoneer owners get a free bonus feature nobody asked for.
Late December, my husband and I bought a car. I loved it. I was so excited about it. It was a 3-row Jeep Wagoneer. And eventually, we were driving it home and it died. The electrical just died while we were driving it. That's weird. My husband had to restart it while we were driving it on the freeway. We pick up our kids. We drive home from picking up our kids. It dies 2 more times with our kids in the car. We get home. We call the dealership. They're like, oh, that's weird. Let's have you drive it to the auto shop and we'll take care of it. Great. Drive it to the auto shop. They take care of it. And we go pick it back up, bring it home. They're like, okay, we found that there was a nut missing off one of the batteries. Should be good to go. Great. Car dies again while I'm driving it. And so we're like, great, that's crazy. Why is that happening? This is not safe. Hopefully you can figure this shit out. I really want to keep my car, right? So they take the car again. They check all the battery stuff. They're like, oh, everything's good. We replaced the alt battery or something. Send me home with a car again. It dies again. This time it dies all the way. Like, it dies while we're driving it, but then the next morning we go to start it to take it in and it won't start. So we have to have it towed. We have it towed. They replace the alt battery, the regular battery. They say, oh, they've just been sitting on a lot for a year, so that's why they weren't working very well. It should be good to go. I get my car back again. I don't know what time this is. The 3rd time, maybe 2nd time. Drive my car. It works for a couple days and then it dies again on the freeway when I'm driving my sister back. I'm driving back from the airport to drop off my sister and it completely, like, the electrical goes out. There's no power steering. There's no anything. And you have to, like, figure out how to finagle it back and to start it while it is still driving. Okay, so we have them tow it again. And then they're like, oh, we were able to recreate the problem. We fixed everything. Your car should be good to go. I pick it up again. I believe this is the 5th time. And then I'm driving it with my kids home from picking them up from my in-laws, and it completely dies while I'm driving it. Not completely, like the engine is still running, but all the electrical dies. And so we bring it home. We call them when they open the next day, and they're like, okay, we'll bring it in, or you can have it towed. And we go out to start it in the morning, and it is completely dead. again. So we are in the process of lemoning my Jeep Wagoneer, even though I love it, everything else about it, but it does not work. It is not safe.
This isn't some isolated fluke. A quick search shows Wagoneer owners nationwide reporting the same total electrical failures, several ending in their own lemon law claims. So apparently Jeep just mass-produced the same jump scare. But if you think losing power steering mid-freeway is bad, wait till you hear about the Jeep that basically lived at the dealership longer than it lived in its owner's driveway.
We bought our new Jeep Grand Cherokee 16 months ago, and in that time, it's been in the shop for 146 days to date, which is over 30% of the time that we've owned it. The rear air suspension failed on it 6 times now. We filed a lemon law case with an attorney, but unfortunately it could take up to a year to get resolved. Even though our car far exceeds all the requirements of a lemon law claim, it's a waiting game for Stellantis to respond. This most recent time, our Jeep has been in the shop for over 10 weeks, and this has been the worst experience of all the previous repairs. When we first took it in, the dealership notified us that a special technician from Stellantis was coming out to assess our vehicle. Upon inspection, they noted there was a crack in the subframe. They mentioned that this is normal wear and tear and our warranty would not cover any of the repairs. We went to the dealership to inspect it ourselves and took lots of photos and videos. The dealership was actually on our side, noting that this is not normal wear and tear and that the subframe on a vehicle with under 15,000 miles on it should not have these structural issues when there's no sign of abuse to the vehicle itself. We had to battle with Stellantis for well over a month as they kept telling us this would not be covered by the warranty. I sent our case manager the photos and videos and we threatened more legal action against them. They all of a sudden decided to reverse their decision and covered the repairs. The total cost for a new subframe and to replace the rear air suspension again was over $13,000 just in parts. That means all the repairs combined have cost Stellantis over $30,000, which is half the price of the car. We're not sure if this failure of the subframe is what's been causing all the issues with our air suspension all along or not. But now that we went ahead and had to buy another car, the Jeep will just sit on our driveway of our RV lot until we get a response from Stellantis, which, given our experience with them, won't be the outcome we're hoping for.
5 months into owning this vehicle, for the third time I've had the same exact error, and Chevy has no answers for me. 3 months into owning the vehicle, Christmas Eve 2022, ESC error, the truck went into limp mode, driving back from Houston to Fort Worth. January 2023, at 4 months of owning this vehicle, again had the same ESC error, took it to the dealership. They said it would take a week to even look at the truck. After looking at the truck for a week, they said it was a fuel pump and it would take a week to get that part in to fix it. The dealership offered no rental vehicle and basically put me on my own to deal with the situation. And now, February 2023, at 5 months of ownership, 6,000 miles, on the way home with my entire family in the truck. The truck had the same exact error after being fixed 2 weeks before, ESC error, but this time a loss of brakes.
That's not a check engine light, that's a plot twist. All right, listen to this one next, because this lady set a new land speed record for buyer's remorse, bought a brand new Chevy Traverse and had it die completely dead before she even finished bragging about it on camera.
So yesterday I bought myself a 2025 Traverse all-wheel drive. Yesterday, literally signed work, brought it home. Now, today, come in, you can see right here, nothing, completely dead, no sounds when I unlock, lock, nothing, brand new, well, new to me, I guess, I should say, yeah, beware of the Chevy Traverse.
1 day of ownership and the car is already staging its own funeral. That's not a new car smell, that's a warning sign. And honestly, this isn't some rare unlucky unit either. There's a steady stream of new Traverse owners online reporting dead batteries and no start issues straight off the lot. So Chevy might want to start bundling a jump box with every sale.
You want to know how complicated new trucks are compared to old trucks? Let me show you this right here. On my old 5.3 liter, this is the water pump, and this right here is the thermostat housing. It is that simple and easy to get to the front of the motor, to change out the water pump, to change out the thermostat. Now let me show you on a new truck, the 2.7 that's in the new generation Silverado, how you have to change out the thermostat housing. And this is what we get now. This is your thermostat now. You're looking at an electronically controlled thermostat valve. Again, because the auto stop feature, all the new stuff on these new cars, this is your thermostat now. You have to remove the cab on the truck or struggle to get it from the side. Imagine how expensive this would have to be to replace outside of warranty. And that's exactly why these old trucks are so much better than the new ones. And if you own a new one, that's why you own it while it's under warranty. And when it's out of warranty, you get rid of it because you don't want to be replacing that thermostat when you have to pay for it, when the cab has to come off. That's absolutely nuts.
Don't buy this Jeep if you have a long work commute, because this is the 4xe, which is completely hybrid, and so you get an actual charging port right here, which is kind of crazy, so you can charge it. But the downside is it's on a level 2 charger. It takes over 2 hours to fully charge, and you get only about 25 miles of range on this thing. Now the whole point is if your job is 25 miles there and 25 miles back total, so only about 12 miles one way, then it's a good Jeep for you, because during the week you'll never have to spend money on gas. The way you can tell it's a 4xe is right here and by the blue tow hooks. But if your work commute is longer than that, then there's really no point in getting this, because you'll always be in gas mode. The hybrid is kind of nice because it will always be there unless you change it to fully electric, but it does generate from braking as well, but it's just kind of pointless. And these Jeeps actually lose value quicker than the regular Wranglers that just run on gas. Not to say that I've had very many problems with this car, besides there was an oil leak that they fixed under warranty, but it's also probably not something that's as proven as a regular Wrangler, because this is a new system, the hybrid and the batteries, and we don't know how that looks long term.
A plug-in hybrid Jeep that only makes sense if your commute is roughly the distance of walking to your mailbox and back. Anything longer, and congratulations, you bought an gas Wrangler with extra steps and a $10,000 markup.